Playing with color, like all children, was the beginning for the one who already wanted to become an artist. Started early in childhood, and since then he has tirelessly dedicated his life to art and the investigation of that sensation produced by rays of light that impact the eye, known as color. Since I was very little, what most fascinated me was the act of coloring. I loved drawing, but coloring was a special pleasure. From then on, I thought I could be effective and most of all, be true to myself and communicate with honesty. And it was in the world of color where I found the opportunity to say something that hadn't been broached by other artists. That's why I've dedicated all my life to the knowledge of color, to give another notion of the chromatic world. There were long years of trials, experiments, and searches. He came to the conclusion that color is an unstable situation. This conclusion, a product of a much longer realization, that perfection is reached with the accumulation of failures. One needs to experiment a great deal to finally find a solid structure that confirms one's searching. Then, one day in 1959, finally, he caught a glimpse of what would be his true path. He made Physichronia No. 1, a three-dimensional work made out of cardboard laminates in relief that changed colors according to the position of the viewer. He realized that this work was the beginning of a definitive career in search of the mysteries and possibilities of color. It was a path full of possibilities that he had to pursue. There were pieces of only 5 colors which produced 120 different tonalities through the interaction of the elements. Before Physichronia No. 1, there was a long period of doubts and failures in which I intended to find my own discourse, my identity as an artist. That was a starting point for my future work. And from there, the development of my work over time began.
C'est l'histoire d'un homme qui, depuis 1959, remet obstinément en question l'idée même que nous nous faisons de la couleur. Ce qui caractérise cette peinture, c'est son pouvoir de métamorphose. Là où l'impressionniste Claude Monet peignait jadis plusieurs toiles d'une même cathédrale pour rendre la réalité changeante de la lumière, Grosdiès ne propose qu'une surface.
One of the considerations I reflected upon was finding out what other possibilities hadn't yet been tried by other artists in the past. Of course, the Impressionists were the point of departure where the instability of color was proven, but with a fundamental misunderstanding of wanting to give motion to color on a stable support, the canvas. That made me meditate and find a way to present color in the process of making itself, not the color already made like a memory, as was the case for the academic painters and the Impressionists, but the act of making it at the precise moment of its emergence in the eye of the viewer. The chromatic inductions came to life in 1963 when, on overlaying one color over another, in their overlapping, an illusion is produced, that of the third color that doesn't exist in the work. In this case, the triangle that appears yellow is conditioned by the interspersed lines of other colors. In 1964, he does research with transchromías. They are colored panels or transparencies that produce an extra sensation of light through the visual phenomenon of color. These panels can be fixed or in motion by mechanical mobiles. Also, by using two superimposed panels, one of them in motion, innumerable color value interferences are attained, producing a random, unexpected effect that is never repeated. These studies are known as chromointerferences. These experiences lead him to study the transparencies of color with the rooms of chromosaturation. In 1969, at the Odeon Plaza on the Boulevard Saint-Germain-des-Prés in Paris, he constructs the maze of chromosaturation, where the public is invited to enter and participate in a labyrinth of chromatic journey. Now, Cruz Diez has become an internationally known artist. He has exhibitions in Paris, Amsterdam, Zagreb, and New York, among other important cities. In 1974, he finishes designing the floor and walls of the Maiquetía International Airport in Venezuela. In 1975, in his birth city Caracas, he finishes the Artists and the City project, filling the spaces with different colors. In 1980, he lectures at the University Simón Bolívar of Caracas, the didactic and dialect of color. At the same university, in 1994, he finishes Chromo Vegetable Labyrinth, making use of the changing colors of nature itself. In 1991, in Caracas, at the Centro Cultural Consolidado, now Corpbanca, he presents an anthological exhibition. This exhibition is to be felt, experienced, and I recommend that you let yourself be taken by the natural temptation of each event which you are about to confront, so that you realize that you are about to experience something that has no explanation, because occurrences, contrary to a dossier, which can be transmitted, occurrences are very intimate. I hope these works of art transmit the information they pretend, which is the fundamental art condition of all times. In this exhibition, the chambers of saturation predominates, a grand space of white walls illuminated by intense fluorescent lights that saturate the crowd with color. All my work is part of the Fisicromías. The chamber of saturation is like a module of a Fisicromía, a cell of that artwork, but taken to a human scale. Because so many things happen in that small detail, I had the idea of making it more evident, taking it to a grand scale, because of the possibilities that are present for the interaction of colors. It's the synthesis of my work, because the purpose of all my research is to bring color out into spaces, taking it away from a firm support and showing it without form nor structure. In 1997, the Museum of Print and Design Carlos Cruz Diez is founded, naming him honorary president. In Caracas, he finishes many aspects of the visual uplifting of the Venezuela's Youth Orchestra Foundation's theater. Cruz Diez does a personal exhibition at the Miami Art Museum named The Embodied Experience of Color, presented by Saludarte Foundation and curated by Rina Carvajal, adjunct curator of the museum. At Los Galpones Art Center in Caracas, one can appreciate the complicated and laborious work of preparing a Cruz Diez exhibition. Numerous people, among them friends, specialists, electricians, and informatic technicians, work hard in preparing the audiovisual spectacle, which is a model of all experiences and creations of the master. In 2010, he exhibits in Panama at the Marion Gallery inauguration. his new studio in Panama, the artist works in close collaboration with his sons Jorge, studio manager, and Carlos, technical assistant. It's a family affair that reminds us of the Renaissance artists' studios, where the ideas of the masters were complemented by those of their assistants and collaborators. My son Jorge has installed a new studio here in Panama, which brings me great pleasure because there are new machines that give me the possibility to continue developing my work further with new technologies. It's a large place with convenient illumination. Besides, Panama is strategically located and offers perfect means for the transportation of my artwork and facilitates finding all the materials we need, be it locally, from the United States or from Europe. The relationship with my children is a result of a lifelong project. I always tell the story of when I was courting Mirta, giving her serenades. I posed to her that if she was going to be my wife, she'd live in a studio. Her life would be in a studio where our children, we, would all be part of the personnel. It's not being an artist for a while and then something completely different. No, it's full-time dedication, 24 hours a day into art, and that's how we educated our family to live and develop art together, and that's the happy outcome I am enjoying, that my children are integrated to art, and it's happening also with the next generation, my grandchildren.
Me causa mucha gracia cuando me dicen que mi arte es tecnológico.
I find it amusing when they tell me my art is technological. Well, like art of all times, literature is technology. If the pen and the typewriter hadn't been invented, nobody would be able to write. Music starts with the progress of technology and the knowledge of physics in the 18th century when new instruments were invented. Paint also takes from technology by applying chemistry and colors when the oil painting was invented and so on. Today, the computer is yet another instrument, like it's been throughout time. Carlos Cruz Diez is today an artist of universal renown. He was awarded with the French Republic's Order of the Arts and Letters. He has dedicated his life to the study and research of the phenomenon of color like none other in the history of visual arts. The significance of his work in contemporary living manifests itself in the direct interaction between the public and the visual spectacle. Furthermore, his work integrates perfectly with public architecture and spaces in the many countries where he has left his mark.
Yo espero que se me recuerde como una
I
artista
hope
de
I'm
mi tiempo,
remembered like an artist of my time,
buscando un discurso
searching for a discourse of my time. I am a person who contemplates and tries to be more efficient in everything I want to state, and I take advantage of all the technology that surrounds me and that is also of my time, because technology and art have always been great allies.
unos grandes aliados.
Cruz Diez is considered one of the pillars of the kinetic movement, an art form based on the motion of every element in the artwork. Everything is motion. What interests him most is the relation established between the viewer and his work. Color, that elusive illusion which is everywhere. That which we all see in our daily lives without paying it any attention. He sees color in a special way, differently, and makes us rediscover it with the various possibilities of invention that his art allows. Carlos Cruz Diez, the magician of color, makes people disappear in an infinite labyrinth of fantasy. Carlos Cruz Diez, a man of his time, a time that in general does not interest itself in art. His tool of seduction for this apathetic society is magic. The magic of color and movement that makes him approach the world of colors like no other artist has ever done. It is a new vision of color.